Rise and shine, Value Farm family. Welcome back to another episode of The Farm. If you are new here, you are most welcome. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already, and also turn your notification bells on. And of course, to all our returning subscribers, you guys are gems. We love you guys so much. Thank you so much for being part of the Value Farm. Thank you so much for being part of the cause of Value Farm, because you guys, we love you. That's what we should really say. So today it's a beautiful morning. We are back at the farm. It's quite gloomy today, not as usual. We normally introduce these videos when the sun is out, but today the rains, the rains are blessing us at the farm. But we are super excited because of the rains, because we want our crops to grow, we want the soya to grow, the maize to grow. We want the animals to have enough grass at the farm. Yes, we are here and we are super excited. I'm here with my co-director on standby, who is just going to introduce and also say hello to you guys.
Well, hello everybody. My name is Grafton, also known as Greg, and I'm here also at the farm with my co-director. And it's a bit gloomy, but you know what? It's also a welcoming sight. The rains are here in full effect, and every time that happens, it's if you're in the U.S., this would be considered spring. When the rain comes and life reemerges.
Okay.
And so just walking even to this location here, there's just so many birds. The chickens are out, they're foraging, they're doing the work of what God intended for them to do.
True.
The staff is out there weeding the area for the soya. And yeah, I'm very excited. But today, speaking of soya, we have a very interesting topic for you guys today. Hopefully you guys can take something from this topic.
Of course.
And please
introduce the topic. Guys, Value Farm is a mixed farm, and we do so many things here. We have cows, we have sheep, we have poultry, we have pigs, we have goats. So because of so many requests from you guys, you want to start farms, you want to do something similar to what we have at the farm. So most of you are interested in goats, some of you are interested in pigs, some of you are interested in poultry, some of you are interested in sheep. So today we are going to be talking about goats and pigs. So which is more profitable? Is it pig farming or goat farming? Are you excited about it?
I'm very excited. Two of my favorite animals.
Two of the favorite animals. Which one is your best of the two, if you're to choose?
That's like asking your parent, do you have a favorite child?
Child, I know.
You do in the back of your mind, but you'll never admit it to anyone. So no, don't put me on the spot. Thank you.
I know. The same to me. I wouldn't really choose right now, but I know
I
think
which
the
ones numbers are going to dictate
which
one you guys might want to start out first. When it comes to either goat farming or pig farming, I mean, the old adage, which one might be a bit more, I would say this topic is a somewhat, convoluted, because the idea of which one is more profitable, which one's, I think, if anything, it should be considered which one is easier to start with and the reasons why. Right?
Yeah.
So ultimately, some of you might actually be, for religious reasons, may actually despise pigs, and that's okay. And some of you might actually love goats. That's also welcome. However, if you were to start a farm today, right, which one would you think, based on what we've experienced, is easier to start with, and why?
And why?
Yeah.
I should really say goat farming is quite easier, because at least if you talk about feeding, if you talk about housing, I should really say it is much easier for me to start, to my opinion. You don't need really to have a very complicated kind of structure. You can only just raise the platform if you want to get it modern. But in case you don't have the money to raise your platform, you can first off their place of where they're going to stay. That is it. And they will definitely go out to graze. As simple as that. Yeah. For beginners, we are not talking about the beginners really. Then of course, if you talk about pig farming, I should really say it is also very good to start with, as long as you have the best breeds, as long as you've already planned. Needs more planning than the goats. The goats you can start today and you definitely prosper with it.
Yeah, that's a really good point, but I'm actually going to take the opposite approach here. Even though you guys know how much I love goats, my favorite small ruminants out there. But I believe if you're a brand new farmer that doesn't have an abundance of time, and with the basics, I think I would suggest to go with pig farming first.
Okay.
For the following reason, right? You can literally save your money, for the same price that you would spend to buy like a premier male boa, right? That's gonna be around like 2 million, sometimes 3 million shillings. You could take 1 million shillings and you in business in terms of piggery, right?
True.
As long as you have a basic structure, structure not permitting, right? Like as long as you have a place to house them, I think pigs are far more flexible than goats because pigs, let's face it, before you get to the commercial level, you have more flexibility in terms of the feeding options, right? And not to mention, in terms of expansion, we all know pigs are prolific when it comes to reproduction,
Yeah,
right?
true.
So if you were to start with just 2 goats, you'll never be able to sustain the growth a pig will provide you because let's face it, you can start with 2 female pigs and based on the age, let's say you purchase those pigs at 4 months, by the time they get to 6 months, right? They're ready to be served. And then when they're served 3 months later, boom, you could easily have anywhere between 15 at worst, even 20 plus piglets,
Piglets, yeah.
within your system. And believe me, when it comes to pigs, anything north of 10 females in production, you're in business.
Wow.
So as long as you have a way to feed them, as long as you have a place that they're gonna remain cool, and you can make sure that your sterile environment to keep clean, make sure they have water, right?
Yeah.
You can still maintain a full-time job while having a piggery, right? Even if you don't have any additional help, especially if you're utilizing the IMO system, which is why we
We're
encourage,
using
right?
now.
Now, when you have goats, goats are beautiful. I love goats. But the issue with goats, they tend to be a bit more needier than pigs.
How is that?
Because the reason I'm going to suggest, based on the breed of goats that you have, right? If you have
Yeah.
these exotic breeds, they tend to get sick a little easier.
Yeah, true.
It requires a bit more technical expertise to keep them healthy, particularly the kids. When the kids are born, if you don't have the technical know-how and the hands-on experience,
True.
the survivability ratio, I would say 50-50.
50-50.
But as you get more experience, as you get to truly understand the breed, way to take care of them, how to look after them even before they're born, then the survivability rate goes up a lot higher. So, for somebody, again, for beginners who are just starting, if you're able to have a structure, and if you're able to save at least $300 or even 150 USD, right? That's allowance money in some instances, right? But for some people here who's on the continent, who's in Uganda, where money is scarce everywhere,
Yeah.
being able to save $150 puts you in business, a business 6 months later that will multiply at such a rate. I think piggery is the way to go. That's just my humble opinion.
Wow. Guys, which one do you think? Leave your comments down below because we love both. We love both. That is a fact. That's why we don't want to take sides here and there, but at least each has its own advantages and disadvantages. Focus on the good side of everything, but of course you also have to look at the bad side of everything because you're starting this farm, you're going to start your piggery farm, you're going to start goat farming. So let's look at maybe the major advantages of goat farming. The market. Let's talk about the market for goats. The market is available. Country where there's so many Muslims, goat farming would be something that you could really start with because most people love the goat meat. It is very expensive everywhere compared to maybe cow meat. Goat meat is more expensive. If you're to start goat farming, you definitely have market. The demand is high, but the supply is low. So that is what I should really say about goat farming as well. Compared to pigs, of course, it depends on your location, depends on your area. You will definitely get people who also love the pork, but not everyone loves the pork like everywhere. But it's also very, very profitable. It depends on your location. Yeah.
Yeah, location does matter. And that's the reason why if you're in Uganda or East Africa, I still say you should go with pig production because number one, Uganda hold a very unique stat. This is the country that consumes more pork than any other country on the continent of Africa.
In Africa.
Right? So if you anywhere on the east side here, and you have the ability. Now I want to make sure there's one caveat to having a piggery, right?
Yeah.
yes, it's easier to start with a pig, in my humble opinion, right? However, you have to have a way to feed your flock,
Yeah,
right?
true.
So if you don't have a plan to feed your flock, then you're going to struggle. What I would suggest for most of you who want to follow this advice of starting with a piggery, even before you get your pigs, you need to figure out where your feeds are going to come from. Make sure you're able to stock up your feeds at least 6 months to a year in advance, right?
True.
So, because you don't want to ever run into a situation where you have your pigs and they're looking great and they're flourishing and you can't feed them. I mean, the saddest things that happen here with us, we're often contacted by people who have pigs who have run out of funds and they can no longer feed their animals. And when you see some of those videos and some of those pictures, it's truly gut
Sad.
wrenching. Because at the end of the day, every business owner, everybody who starts a business with that dream of actually getting to from point A to point B, you never want to get to a point where you get stuck because of finances, right?
True.
From that standpoint, goats are definitely a more favorable option in
Yeah.
my humble also, if you were to ask me. However, if you plan appropriately, you get your maize, you get your soya if possible, you figure out an actual plan of action much before you start. But that's with any other business though.
That is
You
true.
can never start a business without a business plan. I don't care if you put it on the back of a napkin, if it's in your phone, if it's in your audio files, you need to have an
Have a
actual
plan.
plan. That way you can actually keep track of where you come from in order for you to understand how you're doing, whether or not you're going to get out of the red when you get to profitability. So you have to have a plan of action.
True.
It just so happened with a piggery, you need to actually plan for the food first.
That is
So in
true.
terms of advantage, goats have that. I guess you could score 1 for goats. But with everything else, the pigs is actually ahead by at least 5,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah, to add on that about feeding, in case you're going for pig farming, plant your own food, because most people really get difficulties with buying the maize bran already processed, or maybe buying these concentrates already from the market, because they're expensive. They're not very cheap, by the way. So the best advice I would really give a farmer out there who is considering pig farming: get your land, spare it somewhere, plant your maize, plant your soya, so that you can only maybe buy concentrates as a supplement, but at least you grow your own food. As long as you grow your own food, it is going to be much easier for you, because that is the major problem. Feeding costs are very high for piggery. That is the truth, but at least plant large amounts so that it can at least take you for some good periods of time. If in case you can't plant enough, you can also buy from your neighbors as well than you going to maybe to these millers, because the millers also buy from the locals. So it's better for you to grow your own food. Yeah.
True, but also you have to do the same when you really think about it, right? You have to do the same with goats as well. You see, guys, goats are
True.
small ruminants, right? What that means, they have multiple compartments in their stomach. The way they process food is very, very unique, right? However, when you have goats, not everybody's blessed with a big space. In many instances, you have to actually do zero grazing. Even, semi-intensive grazing is when you can do free range and you mix a little zero grazing there. That's why we follow here, because if you could see right now, it's the rainy season, it's gloomy, it rains multiple times a day.
Yeah.
This is not an environment where you want to have your goats out
Goats.
there when the ground is wet, when the dew is still on the ground, and it rains almost every day at 3 o'clock, just like we're in Miami and in Uganda. So when it comes to that, right, that's the reason you guys have seen us planting the elephant grass, planting Mombasa, planting Chloris Diana, planting even sugar
The
graze,
sugar graze, yeah.
right? So that way, we even have alfalfa that we're growing also, because when the rain comes, you want to make sure you're able to protect your goats, right? You don't want to have them in the elements. So you also have to grow feeds for your
Feeds for the goats
for the
as
goats
well. Yeah.
Now, which one is less expensive? The feeds for the goats, right?
Yeah.
Because you can just grow grass, you can grow, whatever variation of grass combination
That
you
can
want to
come.
grow. But pigs are very specific. If you want to go the commercial route,
Exactly.
some of you might just want to have your pigs to feed your family. And that's okay. Just like some people keep goats just to take care of their family.
Yeah, true.
And that's fine too. But if you want to go commercial, feed costs in pigs, 85% of your
It's high.
costs.
Yeah.
It's a very, very high margin. It eats a lot into your profit. So the more you can actually reclaim, claw back some of those expenses by growing your own, it's highly recommended on this side as well.
Oh, wow, guys, I think we've really talked about the major issues, because we are here to just point out the key issues for beginners, especially because you guys are contemplating which one should I go for. So I think you've got an idea of which one you can be able to go for. Let's talk about maybe the pricing of starting, because most of them can be like, if I'm to start, how many should I start with? Goats and of course the pigs. How many do you think someone
I
can
would
sell?
say you can start with far less pigs because their reproduction rate is so much higher than goats.
Yeah, true.
So, I mean, I think you can start a goat farm, you know, get into the goat business with 2 to 3 goats, right? 2 to 3 females. Make sure you find a good buck. And sometimes you don't even have to start out by buying the boa. You can actually talk to your neighbors. You give them, you know, a fee for their stud service initially, just like in the piggery system.
Yeah,
Also,
true.
most people can't just start out with a male pig that's gonna eat so much and you only have 3 pigs. It doesn't make any sense.
True.
We would definitely, in that instance, you would just get artificial insemination for the pigs. So you could do the same thing with the goats as well,
Yeah,
right?
that is true.
So I think with goat farming, a sweet number, a good spot.
Is it
We started with 3. We started with 3 and definitely expanding every single day.
true?
But then in your case, I think if you're fortunate enough to start with 3, you start with 4 females, and then you go from there. That's the most important thing. When you start, there's no turning
Go for
back.
it.
Yeah.
More to what you're saying about, you know, like the pigs especially, when you start with the sows, you don't need to really have a boa in the first place.
Yeah.
You can also hire. If
Easily.
you can't afford artificial insemination, at least hire from a farm that has a very good boa, take your female there, and they do the job. And of course, you also benefit from that. It's just relationships that you create with other farmers as well, if you're getting into this kind of business.
If you're keeping score, when you have a pig that's actually in their digestional period, it's much shorter than that of a goat.
That is true.
A pig carry their young only for 3 months, 3 weeks, and 3 days. And when you have a goat that's pregnant, that cycle is usually 4 months plus, right?
That is true.
So from that standpoint, again,
Piggery.
you know, the piggery to me is the way to go. As long as you can feed them, as long as you can care for them. And I think maintenance for the pigs is actually far easier than the goats.
Easier than the goats.
Because let me tell you guys something.
Depending on the system.
Based on the system that you use,
Yeah.
you know, knock on this invisible air, wood here, we've been very fortunate. As long as you keep the environment clean for your pigs, they don't really need much, right? The only thing we ever give our pigs, after 3 days, they get a shot of iron with the for the piglets to help boost their immunity and give them that extra boost that get. Apart from that, the pigs get nothing but feed and love and care and attention, and that's pretty much it.
Exactly.
So from that standpoint, you know, I think I'm biased. Yes, I'm in love with goats. I'm the goat guy. I love goat meat. I love goats as a species. But when it comes to just pure economics, get yourself a piggery. You won't regret it.
Let's talk about like the breeding, like for farmers out there. Because you need to focus on the breeds for both goats and also the pigs. If you want something to really multiply for you and also give you more profits, go for better breeds. Breeds are the things that really count most in case you're going to start your farm. For the goats, look out for goats that you are going to give you better genetics at your farm. When you go for the pigs as well, go for the pigs that are exotic, that are going to give you return on investment as quick as possible. Because you don't want to go for something that is maybe local, takes so much time, takes so much feeds, and you're not seeing any results at all. That is not really so good for you. So mind about the breeds that you're going to start with first.
Genetics is everything. Because let's face it, if you start out with the best genetics for your breeds, you have a significant advantage. Let me tell you guys why. Most times we get people that call us, and I can tell you guys, if you go to Dr. Narima to buy a male pig, that's at least what, 6 weeks old, it starts around like 500
and something
thousand shillings, right? If you're lucky enough to get a call back, because they never have enough, which is kudos to them, right? But if you get a 2-month-old piglet from that company, it can. I know when we purchased ours there, it was 700,000 shillings, and it was about 2.5 months old, correct? Why did we do that? Well, we purchased the best. We try to get the best we can from all over the place. At some point in the near future, you guys are going to see us go to Zambia to go pick up even more pure versions of the Canberra pigs to bring them here. The reason we do that because we understand nothing is more frustrating when you're spending the same amount of money on a local pig. That's going to take you at least a year plus to only get to half the size of an exotic breed.
So frustrating.
The economics don't make sense there, right? But a lot of people like to go cheap. So when they call us and they find out the price of some of our piglets, you know, they get discouraged. But don't be discouraged. You want to buy quality, right?
True.
Because when you start out with quality, you're going to end up with better quality. But if you start out with something inferior, it's very, very difficult, particularly when it comes to genetic. You can't improve genetics that's so inferior that it might take you to 4th and 5th generation, especially when it comes to pigs. So be careful, guys. Don't go for cheap. Go for what you can afford. Take your time, save your money, and start out the right way. And I think you have a better chance of succeeding.
Wow. Also leave your comments down below because everything has been talked. My partner here has really talked about the major key points that we really need to focus on. So in case you have your points as well, for purposes of us also learning from you guys, leave them down below so that we can learn from one another.
Now, mind you, I'm sorry, I know you're closing.
Yeah.
Guys, do not be discouraged about goats because goats is extremely profitable. I mean, if you think about it, if you get your flock to the point where you get good enough breeds, you literally, while you're sitting in your office in Kampala, doing whatever you're doing, now you might be working 6 days a week, killing yourself for somebody else, and you might not be making 70 million shillings a year.
True.
But if you get to the point where you get your flock up to at least 200 to 250, and that will happen over time because goats do multiply fast, right? You can literally get to a point where you're making 50 to 75 million shillings a year just by keeping goats. Why go to the office and kill yourself when you can actually do that at your farm, right? Something that gives you freedom, where you're the boss, where you call the shots. So it's where your passion lies and what your pockets can do. But whichever one you decide to go with, you can't really lose either way. But just keep in mind, the piggery option is a bit more pricier.
Yeah, it's a bit
But
pricey.
both of them are excellent options.
That is so true.
So don't worry so much about starting with a bang. You know, quite often, the business that started out with a bang ends up with a whimper. You don't want that to be you.
Yeah.
You want to be able to scale in a sustainable way. And I think that's the way to do it.
You do your research most of the time. Whenever you're going to do these businesses, the goat farming or pig farming, do your research.
One other nugget I want to add for you guys here.
Okay.
Though we're discussing goats and pigs here, do not hesitate to take the plunge into sheep as well.
Okay.
Because guys, on the international market, particularly wholesale, guess what? They're going to pay you the same money for goat meat as they're paying for sheep right now. I told you guys about that months ago, right? So don't be a follower. Don't just see everybody's doing goats.
Then you go for it.
And you think there's no market for sheep. But in reality, there's a very big shortage for sheep meat in this country. Also with our surrounding countries here in East Africa. The sheep meat is also at a premium, okay? And it's tracking a few thousand shillings behind goat meat in your supermarket, right? So do not hesitate to take that plunge. Sheep are also very easy to care for. In fact, they're far more resilient than most goats. The growth rate on sheep is what, 2 to 3 times faster than goats.
It's fast,
right?
You've seen the sheep we have here. How they grow really so
very
fast.
Quickly. So keep that in mind. If you're in an area where you can't really get the best goats, go with sheep, right? And if you can find good sheep, good goat, do both.
Both of them.
That's something I wanted to add.
Wow, thank you so much, guys. Please tell a friend to tell a friend. Subscribe to the channel. Do not keep everything to yourself.
On social media.
Yes.
Share with your friends. Share with your girlfriends, your boyfriends, even your boss.
Exactly.
All right. You share with everybody you care about. All right. So the more you share, the better you'll be off for it. The smarter farmers we have in the country throughout the world, better food production becomes. So on that note,
Uh-huh.
until next time.
Bye.